It is the 25th of April. It is Friday, kind of a non-standard day for our broadcasts. Usually it's Thursday or Saturday, but due to technical reasons, we weren't able to have our meeting yesterday, and for the same technical reason, we aren't able to have that meeting tomorrow. So we decided to have this meeting in between the two regular days. And the topic is going Friday, kind of a non-standard day for our to be very important. And I see that our changing the day has affected the attendance. We don't have too many participants compared to our usual attendance rate. But since most of our partners watch the recordings of our meetings, we have currently more than 4,000 views of the previous meetings recording. Let me check and give you the exact number. It's 4,300 views in just 4 days who watched the meeting. What I'm saying is that most of our investors and partners get all the information and watch our meetings dedicated to the string transportation technology and platform development as a recording. So it's okay if we don't have a very big attendance. It's still important because we are going to have very important topics, and I will say a separate hello to those who are watching us in the form of a recording. Dear friends, give me some feedback on the previous meeting, whether I was able to deliver the full extent of the information last time, and whether you got answers to your relevant questions, whether it has become clearer to you regarding the strategic decisions of the company, the possibility of paying out of remuneration. We had more than 3 hours long meeting. We even had to make a break. So tell me how useful that information was to you, how clear it was to you. Just give me a your feedback in the chat. It is very important for me because I read the comments in the chat, in the comments under the video. I personally deleted 2 comments because they were offensive, and this is the only kind of comments that we delete. So we leave everything else criticism, not criticism. As long as you do not cross this line of being offensive, you can write whatever you think. So 90% of our investors wrote positive feedback, and I would like to thank them for that. I'm talking about the comments to the previous meeting, to the recording of the previous meeting, and I've realized that a lot of people got answers to their relevant questions. Mr. Suraj, yes, I agree with you that today is Friday and people are used to participate in our Saturday webinars. And yeah, I already explained why we're doing that. And tomorrow in the afternoon, probably, we will already publish the recording of our webinar today and people will be able to watch it. So friends, regarding the previous broadcast, I see only 2 comments. Heinrich wrote to 100% and Maya wrote clear. So we have 50 people present here today. I would like to get some feedback from you, please. Don't be shy. Evgeny wrote very important information. Thank you very much for a very informative and detailed explanation. Thank you, Evgeny. Vera wrote everything was clear. Thank you very much. Brief and concise. Good. Thank you. Well, in any case, the purpose of the previous meeting was to finally put period and, dot the I's regarding all the unanswered questions and to answer questions that have already been answered, but some people, for some reason, haven't seen the answer. So we decided to do it again and finalize this topic once and for all. Nikolai wrote that everything was clear. Good. So we won't be wasting any more time on that. Thank you very much for your feedback. Today we're going to look into a very important, very interesting topic and very much in demand topic for many investors into the string transportation technology and for all the investors into the GTI. I'm talking about the possibility of getting remuneration in the nearest future. I'm talking about 2026, 2027, and so on and so forth. But before we move on to this topic, I would like to touch upon a couple of pieces of information that appeared in the chats on the internet among our investors. And this topic kind of stems from another one. A lot of partners saw the information given by Dr. Yanitsky during his meeting with partners from Vietnam. That's investors. Okay, that's the better way to put it. And Dr. Yanitsky mentioned at that event the number of commercial projects that the company has in the pipeline. And I would like to give my separate comment on that matter because our audience, our investors, do not always have the adequate, I guess, or correct understanding of what projects in the pipeline are or work in progress. So people think that the company is now working on more than 200 projects. And here I would like to explain, clarify what projects in the pipeline or projects in progress mean. And then we will move on to the potential returns or revenues to be generated by the UST, which then will turn into profits. And then starting 2026, if everything goes well, to share those profits with its investors in the form of remuneration. So Dr. Unitsky at that event said that the company has more than 200 projects in the pipeline. So let me define what is meant. I think at one of our meetings, I touched upon this particular issue, and I told you what are the stages or milestones of any commercial project, and I would like you also to correctly perceive the information and interpret that information so that we wouldn't try to manipulate that information, distort it, as it happened with the payout of dividends 2024, 2025, when everyone was saying that Unitsky had promised that remuneration would be paid in 2025, but it wasn't the case, and we already saw it and proved that what he was talking about is about creating the legal and financial framework for paying dividends. And then when we looked into the declaration, we realized that achievement of the financial indicators to be able to pay dividends is planned for 2025. So if the company by 2025 or in 2025 achieves the financial performance indicators, then of course the company will be able to start sharing those profits only in 2026. And we are only at the end of the fourth month of 2025. So friends, what do projects in the pipeline mean? Let's be interactive about it, okay? So what any commercial project starts with. So what does it start with? So what is the first stage or square one? Feasibility study, someone says, Alexander. Then Maya says idea. Then so probably something else. Probably not a feasibility study. Someone says from the design. Someone says from the contract. Someone says showing interest first. Someone says logistics and supply. But I think that showing interest probably is the closest answer to the correct one. And how do people show interest? Do we have... so someone says there should be a customer first. And what's next? There is a customer. Someone says advertising. Well, probably that's kind of a little bit off. It's more about marketing, and research of the market is also not exactly. So what is the first milestone of any project, of any agreement, of anything? So Vijay Kant said planning. There is a word that describes it. So you said there is like an interest from the customer. So, and there is a company that can meet the interest or the request. So what should the companies do? And you will realize why I'm saying this. Someone says agreement on intention. So up to what the agreement of intention can take place or not take place. Someone says pre-design works. Someone says this comes after. Actually, Valentin, you said pre-design works. No. So what? Without what you cannot. Let's say this: without what kind of process a agreement of intention can and cannot take place? What precedes all of it? Someone says cost estimate. Before that. So kind of. Evgeny says personal meetings, and then Vitaly wrote negotiations. So any commercial project, we're talking about projects on the implementation of the string transportation technology, starts from the negotiation process. And in your opinion, negotiation process is part of the project in the pipeline, the expressing of potential interest. Negotiations is part of the works related to the project implementation. So when I see opinions split, someone says not yet, but then someone says yes. Someone says yes, of course. Nikolai says no. And now, let me tell you how it is. So the negotiation process, negotiations are already part of the commercial project implementation work. And I'll explain you why. Dear colleagues, you know that the company has a separate commercial department that develops and brings the technology into the market and then promotes interest among customers. And advertising is part of it. UST does not do direct advertising. They participate in expos, different forums, events where they can make a statement and tell people what they do, which allows the company to attract potential customers. What some of you guys wrote, that customers show interest. And after that, the negotiation process starts. So how does it look like? UST employees can go on a field visit to various countries. So let's try to identify cause and effect here. For example, a company participated in an event, let's say in an expo, and then the marketing department did their job, and at that event there were some people who expressed interest and became potential customers, and they received an invitation like, come to our R&D centers, take a look, or come to our Ecotechno Park, check the engineering company, or go to the Emirates, and then witness with your own eyes how it works in reality, as opposed to what was shown at the expo. So they receive an invitation. The customer receives an invitation, they come, they see everything works, it's cool. After that, the customer says, now please come to us, and we will discuss with you what kind of needs your technology can address in our region. It can take shape, take the form of physical offline meetings or online meetings, or it can be official correspondence by email. So this is how the first contact happens between the customer and the contractor, which is USD company. And that's where the negotiation process starts. And the negotiation process can last 1 week, 1 month, half a year, 1 year, even more, without even moving to actually ordering some kind of works from the customer. So at first, the negotiation process takes place. And that negotiation process is 100% part of a project potentially be included, go into the pipeline, because it is done on the UST side. There are specially trained employees with the adequate qualification and knowledge. They come to those negotiations. They conduct conversations with high-ranking officials, with business professionals, and any other representatives of the customer. And all of it is a negotiation process. But the company already spends money on it. There is a budget allocated for that. And this is the first milestone, which is negotiation. And negotiations are also very intensive, labor-intensive, and require time and costs. As I already mentioned, any project, especially in remote countries, overseas countries, will be associated with financial costs for the company in order to pay for the travel and accommodation of their employees. You must agree. Or the company hosts a delegation from overseas. There are lots of such delegations. And this is the first milestone of a negotiation process. And you cannot exclude it from the process. So it means that a project is in the pipeline as soon as the negotiation process started. And in parallel, some other processes may take place. For example, the customer identifies their issues, problems. For example, if we're talking about an urban transportation, they show the company where the problem is located, in which part of the city or town, where there is a problem of moving people from point A to point B in rush hours, or where traffic jams are regular. Or let's talk about ports and port terminals. There, the negotiations are of a completely different nature, because the ports infrastructure has a completely different specifics, where the string transportation will have to adapt to the current technological processes in that particular area. And I'm talking about the ports and port infrastructure. So all of it requires a lot of energy, labor resources, and human resources, and monetary resources. So after the negotiations are over, the customer sees that the company is in a position to address those needs. Then the USD group of companies draws a commercial offer stating that the company is able to address the problem in this particular region. And they come up with 1, 2, 3, 5 different options. Routes, for example, or several types of rolling stock that may be used. In the commercial offer, the company can propose different kinds of rolling stock and track structures or transshipment stations and so on, and all other infrastructural facilities related to the potential project. So next follows the commercial offer from the company, where the company gives a preliminary estimate of the costs, which can be very far off from the actual cost, because in order to determine the full cost of the project, give or take a few percent, you need to first develop the design. Well, first pre-design research studies, then the design, then in parallel you do the feasibility study, and then all other commercial project stages kick in. So why I'm saying this, when Dr. Nitsky mentioned the number of the projects in the pipeline, it doesn't mean that those projects are already at their final stage where the company is already participating in or already receiving commercial revenues, commercial profits or gains. And at one of our meetings, I did tell you that one of the first sources of income for the engineering company is engineering itself, design as such. And in order to get to the stage of the receiving of money from the customers for the design, for the engineering, and the following stages, before that period, before that stage, there may be a whole big, long period of time, from 1 week to several years, and all of it comprises the negotiation process, the discussions, consultations. It can be, for example, a urban infrastructure project, and the mayor showed interest, but they are not an engineer, so they involve geodesists, architects, and other technical specialists. A special focus group is created for the project, and then negotiations are held with the engineering company in a narrow field, and every project has their own unique path, but it already indicates that the project is in the pipeline, in progress. So the company is already working with the potential customer, but it doesn't mean that those 200 projects that Dr. Nitsky mentioned are at the stage of monetization for the group of companies UST. And let me give you an example. In the video that is being shared right now on the internet, where Unitsky spoke before the Vietnamese investors, he said that, for example, we have a project in Ukraine. So Ukraine is the country in the state of war. So do you think those projects can now be implemented? No, but they were in the pipeline in the meantime, because there was an order placed for one project, and even a down payment was made for it. It was in the suburbs of the capital city, and the customer already made a down payment, and we were supposed to move on to the next stage of our cooperation. But then what happened, and now this project is archived, is shelved, and waiting for the better time when everything is over and we can get back to that project again. So here's another case for you. In different countries, in the pool of the projects that we have in the pipeline, we here consider all the processes, projects that are in the negotiation stages. And we have reached, in some of them, the milestones where the customer is paying for design already, and the company is working on the design. And when the company received payment or down payment, then the project becomes a project that will affect monetization and commercialization. So it is such projects, as I previously told you, that will help company generate its revenues because, or thanks to, engineering works. But even those projects that are already at the design stage, feasibility study stage, do not guarantee that the company or the customer will start doing the construction works and actually implement the project, because there are other stages in the project implementation that might have pitfalls. Let's say, for example, the route is laid across a certain piece of land, and then the landowner, or let's say the council of local government, will veto the project, and that's it. But the company, UST, by developing the design for the project, will already receive money for that work. Remember, I told you before that the UST group of companies does not necessarily have to start construction works in order to start receiving commercial gains from its work, because any project, if we're talking about the physical implementation of it, starts from design works. And even if the customer paid for the design, it doesn't mean that the project will be brought to its end. I mean, construction will start. Anything can happen. For example, the term of office of the local politician, mayor, that lobbied, promoted the project might end, and the new minister comes in, or a new president, new mayor comes in, or any other powers that be, and they will simply cancel all the decisions or revoke all the decisions made by the previous government. So can we affect this? By we, I mean us, investors, or even the company. So when I say we, just understand that I'm talking about all of us. Can the UST company affect this? No, but they honestly delivered their part and received payment for that work. So the number of projects mentioned by Dr. Nitsky should not be taken literally, that 200 plus projects are already at the design stage where the company already started receiving money, which is the main source of income for the engineering company, design. So out of those 200 projects, only a small part of them bring money for the company. This is a very important thing to understand. The reason I'm asking this question to you, or explaining to you, in order to avoid misinterpretation and distorting of the information, and for you to better understand all the processes happening inside the engineering company, and for our investors not to play around with that information, distort the information, and say that Dr. Nitsky said there are 200 projects already in progress. We need to understand that every project has its own implementation stage. So why, on numerous occasions, I urgently recommended that each of you rewatch the series of videos published, the playlist published on the official YouTube channel of UST, where the group of companies UST specialists top management for commercial projects and heads of the marketing divisions in Indonesia, the United Arab Emirates, tell the audience, I'm talking about Evgeny Petrov, who is in charge of the commercial department, and his deputy CEO. They give a detailed outline of all the projects, what stage they're at, and all other related information, what kind of stages every commercial project goes through. So it is very important, dear colleagues, if you want to really understand how the string transportation technology is implemented in practice as a commercial project, then find time to watch those videos, like one video per day, and then eventually it will all fit in, and it will be easier for you to understand the very logic of what Dr. Yunitsky is saying, because he's also hoping that investors who invested into his technology would be responsible about what their company is doing. I mean, responsibly look for information about what their company is doing. But the reality proves the opposite, because many of our investors do not understand it, and that's why I'm touching upon this topic today. So you see, the company does not have 220 projects at the commercialization stage. They are at different stages. Some of them are at the negotiation stage, some of them are at the contract signing stage, and there is a whole big gap between those stages. Some of the projects, especially the large scale, can take years. In the United Arab Emirates, Mr. Zaretsky mentioned it, the negotiation process has been going on for years now there. But at the same time, the negotiation process, the oral approval processes, signing of memoranda and planning is worth its time, because as soon as the contract is signed and the works start, it will move on very fast, but there is still some work to do before that happens. So dear colleagues, is that clear, the explanation? Is it clear for us to understand how it actually works, so that we wouldn't say later on that Dr. Yunitsky said one thing and then you memorize that number 200, for example, and then you start spreading that information and people misinterpret it? Alexander wrote it right. More than clear. I started understanding that when I rewatched all the company's videos. That's why, by the way, Alexander, thank you very much for your comment. A very good example for many of our investors. Dear colleagues, watch the videos and you won't have any questions left, because many people say ISIP is inside the process, so he's aware and he understands, or better, either he knows more and he's not saying everything, etc. No, dear friends. I mean, I have almost the same information as you. Of course, I have better opportunities to talk to Dr. Yunitsky in person, to participate in other development processes for the UST group of companies. But mostly, I also take information from open sources. And then I use that information to build a reasonable picture of the reality, instead of building pipe dreams or having an illusion-based vision, like some of the opinion leaders say when they engage in wishful thinking and say what they want to see and not what actually is. Alexander says that we, or the company, has professionals hired, and they know how to negotiate and how to promote projects. So I hope what I'm saying is clear, my explanation is clear, so that we wouldn't play around with facts and wouldn't misinterpret those facts. So here's another situation that I've come across recently. So majority, not even some people, but majority of investors mix up the basic notions of promises and plans. So dear colleagues, please tell me, we have 70 people here. Last time we had 200. So last time we had a fundamental breakdown. But again, were it Thursday or Saturday, we would have had the same audience, but still we'll have several thousand people watch the recording. So in your understanding, dear colleagues, promises and plans, are they the same thing? Is promise the same as plan? So everyone says no, no. Someone says no, it's different things. Far from it. Of course not. Yes, you're right. Then why in the last 2 years we had this, as someone put it in the chat, someone in the chat wrote that the fire is blazing and Maxim ISIP has the task to put out this fire. And I told him there is no such thing as fire there. The company made a decision, and now we need to accept that decision as our reality. And the fire, in many people's opinion, appeared because people mixed up promises with plans. By blaming Yunitsky or group of companies UST and everything related to our common cause, is that someone promised something to someone. So dear colleagues, as you, I have been engaged in the development of crowd investing in order to help implement the UST technology through fundraising by GTI, which is the ultimate owner of the technology. And throughout all that time, I never heard any promises ironclad promises from Dr. Unitsky. Moreover, I was lucky enough to spend hundreds of hours in personal discussions, formal, non-formal, work-related negotiations. Never once did he give any promises that many people are talking about. He mentioned plans, and promises and plans are completely two different things. And if it was said that I promise to you to pay in 2025 this or that, or I promise that by 2020 I will build this or that, this is one thing. When you promise and then you break your promise, of course, then it's one thing. But if the company is planning something, or we are planning something, then it is part of any business process. You cannot guarantee and promise things that you cannot affect 100%. So here's a down-to-earth example. We know that in India, in Indonesia, for example, the UST group of companies right now has a big number of potential customers. We know that from the news, official news, right? Dear colleagues, please confirm. We know that in India, in Indonesia, there is a huge potential for commercial project implementation. Yes, we do. Okay. So we've been reading news about it all that time. And those people who treat this news as promises that something is going to be built would later say, why did you break your promise? So what happened in the last 2 days? So very often I told you that there are a lot of global changes happening in the world that can radically affect the UST plans and the success of those plans. I'm talking about factors beyond companies' control. In the last 2 days, there has been a conflict brewing between two nuclear powers. Yes, Maya put it right. There is a pre-war state between India and Pakistan. Nobody's been waiting for it or expecting it. So I live in Ukraine. It's been now 4 years of war, and out of the blue, India, with the biggest population in nuclear power, and Pakistan, also nuclear power, and now we have two sides almost on the verge of conflict. God forbid it happens, the consequences may be catastrophical. And so why I'm giving you this example is to draw you a picture of our reality. So our investors who took the news with plans as promises, once the conflict, God forbid, happens, will say that Unitsky promised to build a commercial project in India supported by the Minister of Transportation. They reached an agreement, and then in Indonesia they have a commercial representative office. Why didn't they implement the project there? You see what I'm driving at? It's because investors who interpret plans as promises, even when a war breaks out, will still be blaming the company for not delivering those projects. So this example between India and Pakistan is no different from what's happening in other regions where projects were affected by the outside factors, and not only the geopolitical, military influences, but also competition, corruption. There are a lot of projects that were damaged by the reputational risks caused by our own partners, investors, who did not correctly conduct their business, and whether conscientiously or non-conscientiously undermined the company's reputation. There are a lot of projects in Europe that were put on hold because a certain group of people started writing negativity towards the entire umbrella of UST, saying that this is like a company that's raising funds in some dubious way, etc. Let me give you a bright example. 7 or even 8 years ago, Dr. Unitsky was invited personally by Indian Minister of Transportation to have breakfast at his residence. They had a breakfast together, and the minister was impressed with the Dr. Unitsky's technology. And then Unitsky was personally invited by the Minister of Transportation in his office. An official meeting, appointment. And when Unitsky came to that meeting, he saw on the table the current issue of the local newspaper saying that Unitsky is a scammer, the string transportation technology is all fake, etc., etc. So do you think negotiations continued? No. It was put on hold. 7 years it took for Unitsky to finally be able to show them what he achieved and deal away with all the doubts that string transportation is an innovation, is a sector-forming innovation. And only after that, by overcoming this reputational nonsense or damage that was inflicted by the media back then, he was able to come to terms, or he was able to again establish connections. And 7 years is not a short period, but over that time, the government of India changed. And by the way, the Minister of Transportation is one of the most respected officials in India. And if this didn't happen 7 years ago, I wouldn't put it past the company to have already be in the process of the implementation of that project in India. Probably that project would have already been implemented by now. So these kind of factors can also affect the implementation of the project. Geopolitical factors can affect the project implementation. And when people in the chat write, I'm talking about our investors, without understanding the scale, something like this, it would be better if they did this way, or it would be better if Dr. Nitsky ignored this and did this, or took that kind of path. So dear clients, investors, partners of the RSW systems, and not only, please stop giving advice how business should be done to a person who spent like 60 years of his life to find ways how things shouldn't be done, and knowing now how things should be done. Dr. Nitsky, due to his genius in many areas, is bringing his technology to the market in an out-of-the-box way, which goes against many of the conventional methods in the current, let's say, logical, established logic. So he tried to follow that path like 15, 20 years ago, but it didn't bring about the desired result. But once Unitsky put his hope on a different fundraising technology, on a different promotion method, instead of going from office to office, from one higher-ranking official office to another one. But people are saying, Americans propose to Unitsky this and that. They want to take over the technology, and then they start writing their nonsensical guesses. For example, when Unitsky went to the Baltic state, as soon as he rolled out, then the unfair competitors started undermining him, and he had to leave the Baltic states and came to Belarus. Did someone invite him to Belarus? Did someone offer him some favorable conditions on environment? No. The Minister of Transportation was on his way. The Academy of Sciences did their best to not allow Dr. Nitsky to implement his project in Belarus, yet he did it anyways. Took him 7 years. And then, sometime later, the Academy of Sciences of Belarus issued or assigned the status of R&D to Dr. Nitsky's company. Maya says they gave him a tank testing field, abandoned one. Well, not entirely gave him. He rented it, and then he showed how you can turn spoiled soil that was soaked with oil and fuel oil and gasoline. So probably if you were there in 2015, you remember how it looked like. It was wild weed and sand, etc. And now he turned it into a corner of paradise. And very few people knew about that small townlet. But now this is one of the most prosperous areas in the country. For your understanding, UST group of company there is the biggest taxpayer of, if I'm not mistaken, Puchovichi district. And it is one of the most renowned areas, not only in Belarus, but in the Eastern Europe. But nobody was waiting for Dr. Nitsky in Belarus or giving him warm welcome. He came on his own. And without being instructed by anyone, he did what he saw fit. Nobody invited him to the Emirates. He knocked on Emirates doors starting in the early 2000s. That's where the first attempts made. 20 years it took for Unitsky to go back to the Emirates, but nobody invited him. He came there with his own project, and then he promoted it there. And then they promised him a piece of land for the high-speed transportation and didn't deliver on that promise. But he did it on his own, with our financial support, of course. But everything else was done by him as an engineer, as the author of the technology, and we supported him. We supported him financially through the GTI that funded all that activity. Some people gave moral support. Someone wrote him letters of thanks. Someone came in person to the EcoFest, someone to the Emirates, and someone wrote negativity on the internet. And Dr. Nitsky withstood it all, because in 11 years, Dr. Nitsky already showed who is who in that area. And let's go back to the United States. Nobody is waiting there for Dr. Nitsky. Nobody is inviting him there. Please don't think that Dr. Nitsky has been offered some incredibly profitable proposals and they're waiting for him. No, there are difficulties there, legal nuances related to the local laws. Please don't forget that the United States have 50 states, and every state has its own laws. And now the company is at the stage of searching for the proper land. Just recently, a legal structure has only been set up, not even the financial structure, legal structure. There are a lot of hidden pitfalls there. Nobody's waiting for him there, but he went there and is doing things. Of course, being guided by the global standards or other similar projects or similar, let's say, sector-forming projects like Boeing, Ford, and so on. So it took Dr. Nitsky 10 plus years to showcase the sector and to create the sector-forming project. And if you try and compare it to other sector-forming projects, it took them 30, 40, 60 years, 70 years to be created. And Dr. Nitsky spent just 10 years to create an entire sector. So dear colleagues, I'm addressing all of you. Please, it is my urgent request. Those opinions on how it should have been done should be kept with the author of the opinion. So don't spread them. I'm sure that not a single person out of hundreds of thousands of UST investors have experience on par with Dr. Nitsky, because if they did, then probably they would be already founding not only innovative companies and own some proprietary projects, you would have already been a strategic partner and investor of Dr. Nitsky. But since you don't have that, so please don't teach Dr. Nitsky, who spent 50 years out of his 76 years of life doing what he is doing, creating what he has created. So what I'm saying here is that we have to be objective and give a realistic assessment of the information that we read. And I'm not talking about the information being right or not right. Just take it at face value. That's it. Do not add anything of your own. This is like a recap. And B, we need also to assess the realities we're living in. And if right now the company has declared its plans to pay remuneration based on the financial performance of 2025, it means that the plans have been declared. The task now is to achieve the financial performance indicators, or better, overachieve, and then in 2026, based on the financial indicators, start paying the sharing, the profits that the company is going to generate. You know what I mean here? Dear colleagues, is that clear? Am I making it easier for you? Because those points that I've just raised, in my opinion, dear colleagues, are of utmost importance at the stage of the string transportation development that we are at. Right now, we are at the stage of going into the commercial dimension. I'm talking about the entire UST group of companies, and we should not be in the way. And when we are sharing our guesswork and guesses and assumptions, it all turns into negativity. And that's where the cause and effect kick in. When some of the investors in the chat, we have a chat, you know, we have 2,000 plus people there. When they read the negativity, and then a new person comes in, reads the comments, and then takes it at face value. And it might be just an opinion of a person who doesn't even show their name. And then they read the comment, and they think it's truth. And they leave the chat thinking that I've been cheated again. Or again, the company is not telling the whole truth, etc., etc. And then people, new investors, come in, read, and then they think to themselves, what I've got myself into. So again, we are sawing off the branch that we're sitting on. Whereas currently, we have huge achievements. We are on the verge of being able to receive remuneration. So this is what my second part of meeting is dedicated to. I would like to pick up the calculator here on my phone and try and calculate what kind of profits we can count on if certain financial indicators are achieved, for us to understand the potential gains. Again, my caveat is that it's going to be my personal opinion as an investor, not even as the head of the RSW system. It will be my personal opinion as an investor, like any one of you guys. I will just make an assumption what kind of gains, profits can be shared by the company if they receive certain financial indicators, financial performance indicators. Before we move on to that, I would like to first emphasize that right now we shouldn't be cutting the branch of the tree that we're sitting on by creating negativity. Instead, we should be focusing and highlighting the merits, achievements, and the results that we have right now that have been achieved thanks to crowd investing by the GTI group of companies that UST is part of. And this is what I would like to emphasize in my second part of the meeting, that we should be focusing not on those guesses and assumptions and teach Unitsky how to develop his own technology or teach Unitsky how to create a sector. We shouldn't be doing that. We don't have any right to do that or experience to do that or any other regalia, merits to do that and to express that kind of opinion and saying Unitsky is making mistakes. Now, please give me feedback, please, on everything you've heard so far. Gregory said, everyone thinks they are a strategist by being on the sidelines of a battle. Well, exactly, yes. So give me some feedback. Was it clear and was it useful for you to hear that? So we have now 81 people. So please do not ask questions for now. For now, we're just answering questions. Okay, let me read your answers. Yelena says, you are correct. Alexander says, correct. Maxim, everything is clear. Valentina says, everything is clear. The information is clear. Gregory says, yes, that everyone thinks they are strategists by observing the battle from the side. Valentina gave me a thumbs up. Heinrich wrote okay. Someone says on point, undoubtedly. Maya says I agree, and this is my understanding as well. Everything is correct. Yes. Yelena says it was very important to hear and understand. Ilya wrote a very important thing. Unitsky's reputation and the company's reputation should be maintained. Exactly. And this is what I'm fighting for and always trying to defend. Because when I realized that our investors misinterpreted the information they received in December 2023, thinking that dividends will be paid in 2025, whereas Unitsky didn't say that, you remember, it is from April, May that this topic was raised, and let's not joke about it. This is not what was said. And I told them, you heard what you wanted to hear and not what was actually said, and it directly undermines Unitsky's reputation. And I've been saying this for an entire year. Alexander said it was very important and on time, and Vera wrote everything was very important. Thank you very much, dear colleagues, for your feedback. I'm glad that we are on the same page and we have the correct understanding. Now, let's try to list the merits, the achievements that we have so far. I wanted to show you the importance of making an emphasis on the increase of personal portfolio and attracting new investors, and what kind of gains you can get right now in this particular period of time. And many investors can't see those gains, do not see those gains. The other day, I was answering an investor of ours in private, and he asked me, Maxim, what do you think is the best way to invest my money in terms of USD? Should I invest in GTI and wait for the IPO, or should I wait and invest into the high-speed transportation in the US? And I made a conclusion here that it is important to show to all of our investors how important it is to support the technology at this given period of time. What kind of gains are out there? And today we're going to calculate what kind of gains we're talking about here. Yeah, if reputation is undermined, our pockets will be undermined, our money, of course, because due to undermined reputation, a lot of projects were not implemented. 5 or 6 that I know of and that I was personally involved in. I'm talking about negotiations, etc. Even this year, in 2024, there was a project in Europe that is put on hold because of the reputation or undermined reputation. In your opinion, dear investors, why right now it is very profitable at this stage right now and in future to invest into the string transportation technology? And I would like to hear your opinion first, and then I will list you all the advantages that I see and that we have. Please be interactive here. In your opinion, why it is profitable to invest into the string transportation right now, and what kind of gains are there for us in the near future? I will be waiting for your answers in the chat. I see already answers. I'm not going to read them out for now because I want more than 4 people to give their feedback. I need to have at least 24 people to give their feedback. Let's do it this way. I suggest we make a 5-minute break because we're going to have another at least 40-minute talk. So think about my question, because up till now we've been discussing one thing. Now we're moving on to the next topic. So think about it. Do not delete your comments. I already see 5 answers. So we have 84 people right now, and I need at least half of you to give me your answers. I want you as investors to try to give me all the advantages and reasons why it is important to invest into the string transportation technology now and what kind of gains it will give us. I will give you my answer, of course, but for now I would like to hear your answers. So we'll have a 10-minute break, and after that, it will give you time to think if you haven't yet given your answer, or you can take those 10 minutes to write the answer. So please, I think it will be a very good way to do it, to deal with it. I think it will be a very good thing to give you 10 minutes to think, because I would like this to us be in a kind of symbiosis, you and I, okay? So let's make a 10-minute break, and meanwhile, you will write your answers. Do you agree with this proposal of mine? Colleagues? Okay, I see already some okays. In this case, I will stop the recording, put it on pause, and see you in 10 minutes. Meanwhile, think about your answers, write your answers. I would like to see at least 30-40 answers from you. It's very important. Okay, dear colleagues, let's continue our today's meeting. We made a break, and now I'm waiting for your answers. I see there are more answers in the chat, and I asked you about the advantages and reasons why at this current time it is profitable to invest into the string transportation technology. At this precise moment, what gains are out there for us old investors and future investors? I will read your comments, and after that, I will give my personal viewpoint, not as the head of the RSW Systems platform. I would like to emphasize what I'm going to say after your comments, after I read your comments, will be said on behalf of a regular investor into the string transportation technology, Mr. Maxim Isip, who is an investor like you, and what kind of advantages I see and what kind of results we can count on in 2026, 2027, 2028. Why I have taken those 3 years, you'll realize, you understand. If you haven't yet written your message, please do, and meanwhile, I'll start reading out your answers to my question. Let's see who was first. Let's start. Maya Yashkina. It is important now to support the company to make sure that first remuneration is paid, and then it will scale up. So support the company to enable it to start making first payments. Well, I would like to correct your message here. It is not directly related to the investing into the technology and payment of remuneration. The company is going to pay remuneration from its profits from the current operations, which is engineering operations. Evgeny wrote, a very high discount. Ilya wrote, we are almost at the finish. Okay, correct. Minimum time until the achievement of the result. Good comment. Pavel says, the company has a ready product. Maya wrote, so both ex-investors and new investors should be offered to reinvest. Then Gregory says it's a perfect way for self-realization and to support the technology of UST. Well, I'll write it down, the self-realization thing. Good. And we have even more people after the break. I thought that after the break we would have fewer people. I, by the way, noticed that in all of our meetings, we have almost 100% retention rate. So people are not dropping out, which is a very good thing, regardless of the number of people, whether it's 100, 200, we had people 100, 200 plus, 300 people at the meeting. It doesn't matter. So what matters is that the retention is almost 100%. Alexander wrote, to improve the technology, to improve the characteristics of our product, before the webinar, I made an investment of $1,000. I'm not boasting, but I continuously support the company and hence all of us. I agree. We need to finish stage 15, finish building other tracks in the Eco Techno Park and in Sharjah for the authorities and the customers to see everything in its beauty. Alexander, you are a shining example for the current and future investors. Thank you. Valentina wrote, to speed up the implementation of the current projects because it is a precondition for the company to start receiving profits and therefore pay dividend income. Well, I would like to correct this comment as well. We had a similar comment. I would like to emphasize that payment of remuneration is not directly related to investments, as it is in financial pyramids, for example. I will explain it later. I mentioned it last time. I will mention it today. Lubove says, by the way, hello. Because the company is launching its commercial projects and plans to receive profits that it would share with its investors. Nina wrote, good evening, everyone. I believed in the technology in 2016, and today only a blind person wouldn't recognize the future behind it. I would like to put a like to your message. I would give likes to all of you guys, but I don't want to spend too much time giving likes. Alla Popkova wrote, if an investor wants to receive a quick result, dividends, it is very profitable to make an investment into our project. Exactly. I'll explain why. Vitaly says it is profitable because the financial structure of the Russian Federation is changing for the worst. Well, I wouldn't really mention any particular country. The current global situation is not very good, but our projects are diversified because the company has R&D centers in separate geographical locations, plus there will be a third one on a different continent, and this diversification ensures certain protection to our technology. Olga wrote, working with targeted projects is already bringing income, and it is already being scaled up. There will be payments from those projects. Those who have more pre-IPO shares will have bigger dividends. Correct. I will talk about it. It is reasonable to increase your portfolio now because high-speed transportation requires time. Yes, I would like to applaud that because you put it right, and I'm going to point it out today as well. Next, Gregory. another big advantage is to increase your social status. You become more successful and people will reach out to you. I agree. Ilya says, let's start from the value of the technology, environmental friendliness and safety. Compared to earlier stages, you can see the results, tangible results, which reduces financial risks of the investors. The company showcases elements of the ready product, certificates, rolling stock, elements of transportational infrastructure. The expected return is from starting from 1 year. And the discount is the way it used to be at early stages. And the company, despite facing global economic turbulence, still continues working. Gregory says that I made the right choice and by listening to my sponsor. Correct. Suraj wrote also something in English. Let me have it translated in Google Translate. I will skip it for now, but I will go back to it. Okay, first I will read the comments that I can read without the translation. Sergey says, I started investing in spring 2014, and it was very difficult to convince people that everything is going to be fine. There were no media publications about our company, and no major news companies talked about the company, and nobody came to visit Dr. Unitsky. Now everything changed. The company is successful, and I'm very happy that in the last 11 years, I bought a lot of pre-IPO shares. I agree. Pavel says there are already 2 ready products, urban passenger and cargo transportation. Correct. Yelena wrote, it is important to support our company because the company is at the stage where it's moving on to a higher level of development. It is undoubtedly profitable for all of us, for Dr. Unitsky, for his team, and for all investors. And now Valentina wrote, there are no risks involved in the technology, and everyone else is the same. Exactly. Maxim Nadezhda is writing, I would like to ask my question. I repeat my question. No, I'm not going to ask questions right now, only feedback for now. Vera, because we are on the brink, we are at the point when we can show something to our customers. The risks are minimal. Correct. Alexander says now the project is at its final stage, and only on us, investors, the future of our planet is going to depend, and we need to support the technology by Dr. Unitsky. Correct. Surav Jyoti is asking about Nepal. Unfortunately, we're not discussing projects about Nepal here, and overall it is not our competence. It's UST company's competence. We're just reading the news about it. And I, being the GTI representative, can give some supplemental information and explanation, as I did in the beginning, related to the number of projects in the pipeline and not the exact projects. So being a competent, let's say, authority in that area, I gave you the explanation for you to have the correct understanding of what Dr. Unitsky said regarding the number of the projects in the pipeline. I wanted to show it to you that every project has its own number of stages and is at different stages. So now, dear colleagues, we read what I wanted to see, and you did it for me. You listed all the advantages instead of me, for me. And I wanted to show you that it's not just my opinion. And people will see that it's the opinion of hundreds and dozens of people. And now, friends, let's list all the facts and all the achievements, why it is important and profitable to invest into the string transportation technology. And now I'm going to express my personal opinion as a simple investor who invested into the string transportation technology, and someone like you, and what kind of prediction I see here. So I forgot about the English comment by Suraj. I'm sorry, I almost forgot it. Was it Suraj or was it Nitish? Let me see. Just 1 second. I promised to read it out, and I didn't. Yeah, it was Mr. Suraj. Okay. Benefit number 1. So the answer to why it is important to invest now. High discount of 1 to 76, as well as 10% extra bonus shares on single term purchase. This is A. B. Possibility to get higher rank on micro and global platform. Third, possibility to become eligible of 1 step forward for participation and winning marathon. Fourth, with this opportunity, creating more structure and possibility of getting more rewarded. 5. Investing in the best technology, best project, when the current time is more critical globally. And increasing possibility of more dividend and great assets. Thank you very much, Suraj, for your feedback. I agree almost to all of it. Well, not even to almost. You have listed all the advantages, all the benefits. Thank you. And now let's do the recap. So Alexander wrote, well done, Suraj. He is sending you his regards. He's saying that, well done. Way to go for giving all the benefits in the chat. You have the thanks of our colleagues here as well. That well done. Way to go. Okay, now friends, I will take 10 to 20 minutes to express my opinion, personal opinion, and the way I see it. First, friends, a lot of us indeed came to this technology more than 10 years ago. Even 5 years ago is already a decent period. currently we indeed have, thanks to the crowd investing, the group of companies GTI, who was able to help implement the Unitsky's engineering school, or better, let's put it this way, helped Unitsky create an engineering school that was able to develop two ready products, urban passenger and cargo transportation products. A. B. Throughout these years, we've seen that crowd investing works, and it is the only fundraising method that allowed Unitsky to protect his technology against the influence of big-time investors that could have demanded concessions and taken over. So the technology is protected. So this is what, 2 or 3 already benefits. Now next, we've seen that Unitsky's engineering school was not only able to create those 2 commercial products, but also was received recognition from the Academy of Sciences as a R&D institute. So if we put it all together, we can say that the technology is viable, and the reputation, the authority among scientific circles that previously criticized and didn't believe Unitsky, now that those scientific circles have more and more people who become advocates of the project, which boost the authority, the reputation of the company, and it becomes undeniable. The technology is viable. Next, what I see is at least 3 sources of funding for the company in the next 3 to 5 years. So what I mean here, as of 2025, we have the right here to be fully optimistic and to expect that by 2025, the company will achieve their financial performance indicators mentioned in the declaration of dividends of 2024. So we have reasons and we have facts that allow us to think that the financial performance indicators will be achieved by the company this year, which will allow the company to generate net profits that the company will be able to share with all the investors into the GTI already in 2026. So what does it mean? What does it say? So 3 sources of funding and the benefits. Before the 16th of April, before Unitsky mentioned some extra payments, extra money to be paid within the remuneration, and I, as the representative of GTI, also stated that there would be changes made in the declaration of dividends for the benefit of the investors. So what kind of changes we're talking about? Remember that in the declaration of dividends, an algorithm, a formula was given, according to which the company will pay dividends. It's when profit income will exceed the operational costs by 40%. And then net profits should be generated, income minus costs, that UST will have to reinvest into the development of the innovative activity and finalizing the processes that have already been started in Eco Techno Park on the United Arab Emirates, and only after that pay 30% of the remaining net profits will go to us as investors. And last meeting, I confirmed that the group of companies GTI is planning. So Mikhail is writing, by 40%, the income should exceed the operational costs. Well, I think I said that, right? So, and we heard that this declaration will be amended for the benefit of investors. So how is it going? What kind of a shape and form it's going to take? The group of companies GTI, in order to cover the operational costs and in order to cover the investment costs, the parent company will keep on selling its pre-IPO shares and use the proceeds to reinvest into the technology development to complete the processes that were started before. It will be put on paper and the declaration will be amended accordingly. Next, the company, thanks to 2 commercial projects now, has demand for those products. So what kind of demand we're talking about here? Orders for design works from different countries and different cities, individual customers. And that money is already part of the company's revenue already in 2025, and the number of such orders is growing. The order portfolio is expanding. In parallel, the UST group of companies, the GTI group of companies, gets 5% in the American company, which is planning to build a hub worth $700 million. And out of those $750 million, UST will get $150 million for design, engineering works, for the production of rolling stock, startup commissioning, etc. And all of it will happen within the range of 3 to 5 years. In other words, there will be a third source of income from this particular project in the US. Now, put together, we have here at least three sources, well, not of funding, of income or profit generation that will generate revenues for the GUST company, group of companies. So first, let me recap. The presence of the current orders from the current customers for the delivery of design works. It can be 5 orders, 10 orders, 25 orders. Each of them will have their own cost budget. Somewhere works will cost $500,000, somewhere $1 million, somewhere $1 million, and so on. I'm giving you abstract numbers right now. I just want you to understand that every order will not have a fixed amount. It will depend on the total project cost. But all of it taken together will generate profits for the company. In parallel with that, income will be received from the implementation of the hub in the United States, which also money in the piggy bank of the company. Also, there is a parent company, which is the main founder and owner of the UST group of companies. It finances the innovative activity, and it is their authorized capital. And that money is supposed to cover the UST's costs of developing the technology. So the UST company, instead of reinvesting its profits into the technology development, will be able to share those profits with its investors, thanks to the fundraising implemented by GTI. So the investor who already invested so far and investors who will come in the future, what will they get? What will they have? Let's recap. So let's assume the year 2025 is over. Hopefully, the company will achieve their financial performance indicators, will generate the necessary amount of profits, and that profits will be used to pay remuneration in 2025. And also, sorry, forgot to mention another source of remuneration or revenues for remuneration. Please don't forget that Dr. Nitsky is the biggest shareholder and the biggest investor and the biggest ultimate beneficiary from its capitalization commercialization. But all of us on the 16th of April heard from Dr. Nitsky himself that he is ready for the period when the company hasn't yet reached stable financial indicators to share his biggest profits with us, which is an additional contribution to the overall pool of dividends of remuneration. So what do we have? What will we have by the time when the year 2025 ends? All of it taken together will allow already in 2026 us to start receiving remuneration if the financial performance indicators are met, if they are met. And now the main question is, how much are we talking about here in figures? So let's use simple math here and see how much it can be in actual numbers. Let's start with the minimum amount, because I don't know what the amount can be. I don't know how much money, how many customers will come to the company until the end of the year, and what kind of money they're going to pay for what kind of projects. The year hasn't ended yet. It's been only 4 months. For example, what do we need to use here as our basis for our calculations? How many pre-IPO shares have been sold so far? Does anyone know? Does anyone remember how many pre-IPO shares have been sold? 120 people immediately gave the answer. Correct. Well, of course, by the end of 2025, the number of pre-IPO shares sold will be bigger. Let's say Alexander wrote 125, Satish wrote 128, 25 billion. Well, let's say 125 billion pre-IPO shares will be sold by the end of 2025. Okay, so it would be logical to assume that profits will be distributed per one share. Again, this is my personal opinion as an investor into the technology, not as an official representative of GTI, not as the head of the RSW Systems platform. I'm expressing my personal opinion as an investor into the string transportation technology who, like you, can make assumptions. How much and when it's going to happen. So let's say the company makes $1 million. I'm just taking a stupid number, a very simple number, 1 million. So what we need to do here is to divide 1 million by 125 billion. And what we get is this kind of number. Now, what we need to see here, if you have 1 million shares, I'm using these big numbers because this is something we should all strive for, to get at least 1 million pre-IPO shares. This is my personal opinion. That's how many shares you have to need in your portfolio. So multiply this by 1 million pre-IPO shares. We get only $8 for a packet of 1 million pre-IPO shares. But I just wanted to use this formula for you to see how it is calculated. But let's assume the company will get $10 million of net profits because Dr. Nitsky will forsake his share of the profits, because after all, he has the biggest number of shares. So divide 10 million by 125 billion. And multiply that by we get $80 if the company makes 10 million. But let's assume some investors have 10 million shares. But if you multiply 80 by 30, for example, if you have 30 million pre-IPO shares, then it will be already like 2,500. But we're all talking theoretically here. I'm not saying the company will earn that much, so let's pray that this is what happens. Let's say the company earns $100 million. $100 million divided by 125 billion pre-IPO shares, we get 0.008. Well, and multiply that by a million shares that an investor has, and now you get $800 if you have 1 million pre-IPO shares. But what if a person holds 5 million pre-IPO shares? Multiplied by 5, it's $4,000. And what if our investor has 10 million pre-IPO shares? Then you get $8,000. So you see what I'm driving at here. You understand the logic. Remember at the last meeting I told you that we shouldn't be expecting big numbers during year one. The first year will be just a sign, an indicator that Dr. Nitsky and the group of companies, GTI, delivers on its obligations. The company earned $1 million, it was fairly divided across investors. 10 million was earned, it will also be divided. But Unitsky, as a token of gratitude to its investors for supporting him during the current and previous stages, I'm ready to share even my profits with you. And even before we started doing construction works, but started receiving money for design works, we can already start sharing profits. If not big profits, but at least it will be proof that the company delivers on its promises. So now we just make a theoretical calculation how much it can be. 1 million, million, 10 million, 100 million, 100 million. And for different scenarios, we saw different potential payouts. I also wanted to mention that there is a Unilight project where Dr. Nitsky is the customer because he ordered that project as a farmer. And from that project, he also receives some revenues. So in addition to UST group of companies making money from other sources, there is also possibility to generate profits from the Unilight operation, because Unilight is a commercial project, it's not just a tourist attraction. It's a actual commercial project with its own profitability rate. So I haven't added Unilight project here yet. So what I'm driving at here is that all of it tells us that profits will gradually increase, and the profits from the American project will not be given as one sum to the UST. The project to be implemented in the United States will take 3 to 5 years if everything goes according to plan. And the profits from there will be transferred piece by piece to UST. But in parallel to that project, the company will gain more and more orders from other clients. Some orders might drop out, might not come through. Some projects will reach their construction stage if none of geopolitical cataclysms happen, like the one we've been discussing today. Nobody expected anything to happen between India and Pakistan, and there are a lot of projects in the pipeline in India, and God forbid a new conflict breaks out there, which might affect those projects. But take into account that the company has diversified its projects and its presence on different continents. It allows us to be spread across the entire world and receive orders from customers from different countries. Therefore, going back to the benefits for the investors. Right now, every one of you can already plan for the next 10 years. Well, not plan. Already you can, by analyzing what's happening, make certain estimations. That's what I've been doing as an investor. I realize what kind of a exponential dynamics we can see, which will increase my income depending on the number of shares that I have. The more shares I have, the more money, the more dividends I get proportionally. So this is my incentive to increase my GTI pre-IPO portfolio, because high-speed transportation is a separate project, and there you will be able to make separate investments. We're not talking about high-speed transportation right now. It's going to be a separate, unrelated project to GTI. So it is profitable right now to invest into something that will allow you to increase your investment portfolio. And now let's go back to the topic of countdown. I think in summer, in Q2 or 3 this year, we will see the countdown, which will show the amount of money GTI needs to raise for a USD company to finalize completely their cargo and passenger transportation solutions. I'm talking about finalizing tracks in the Eco Techno Park, streamlining processes in the Emirates, which will allow UST to increase the number of their potential customers by increasing their range of products. So in other words, it directly influences its possibility to receive more and more orders. And this dynamics will be growing every single year. So at the end of 2025, we will see whether the financial performance indicators were achieved. And if they were achieved and everything goes according to plan, then in 2025, we can expect the first payouts. So it depends whether it's going to be 1 million, 10 million, or 100 million. We don't know. Let's hope and pray that it's going to be dozens of millions of dollars of profits that will be distributed across investors. But even if it's 1 million, even if it's 5 million, it's still the first signs, the first indicators of profits after just 10 years after we started achieving those indicators. But it's 10 years for us, old investors. But what if an investor comes in April 2025 and buys pre-IPO shares at a discount 1 to 76 and then pays for the package in one go and gets 10% extra? And instead of getting 76 discount, they get discount 84 or even 85 if rounded up. So before the countdown started, while we have big discounts possible, I suggest we increase our personal portfolios to increase the number of pre-IPO shares we have so that the payouts in 2026, 27, 28 would be bigger because profits will be distributed according to the number of shares you have. You cannot split the shares just equally across all, or profits equally across all investors. No, it should be split according to how many shares you have, right? It shouldn't be equal. It should be fair based on how many pre-IPO shares you have. Galina says, so she says there are 228 projects in the pipeline. Is it only showing interest? Does the company has any actual projects it's working on? But I gave you the answer in the first part of our meeting, and you need to mention it as well. How many projects are being worked on right now? You're saying you've just joined, but I'm sorry, I cannot repeat what I've been saying for the last 2 hours. So Galina, with all due respect, you will have to watch the recording to get your answer, because I cannot jump back to the beginning of the meeting. We already have 100 people here. You please watch the recording and you will get the answer to your question, because I answered that question in the beginning. Okay, friends, those people who are going to invest right now, they will have to wait 1 or 2 years tops until they get their first returns. Whereas we have been waiting for 10 years. People who will be coming now, there are almost no risks. As someone wrote it in the chat, one of our participants, Valentina, wrote that there are no risks related to the technology, whereas other companies face all same risks. Yes, we are all leveling out right now. So those who will be coming now will have the same risks, almost no risks, compared to those who invested in 2014. Well, there are some risks, like geopolitical risks, corruption-related risks, if we're talking about specific project implementation, but we're all on par right now in the same conditions. But there are no risks related to the technology itself. The technology is viable. Plus, we see that the company is starting to gain momentum, starting receiving its first revenues, and that's where we have all become equal. The only difference is the people who have come now, they didn't wait for 10 years. But what they missed is the opportunity to buy pre-IPO shares at discount 800, 600, 300, 1,000. That's what they lost. Previously, you were able to buy 1 million pre-IPO shares for $1,000. Now it's hundreds times less, right? So this is the whole point of venture investing. Those who came at earlier stages accepted the risks, waited until the payday, they get a bigger returns. And there we are in a better position, because for little money, we bought something that will cost much. And those who are coming now, well, they will have good returns as well. Even now, the discount 85 is a very good discount. But when the countdown starts, the discount will be getting lower and lower. And I don't think we will go anytime soon back to the previous high discounts. I think with every quarter, every half a year, the discount will be getting lower and lower. So right now, when we have just 5 days left until the end of the promotion, it is important for ourselves to use that math that I showed you on the calculator to see what kind of returns you can get depending on the number of shares you have. And you can estimate what kind of revenues the company can get based on the increasing demand for the train transportation technology. And just not play around with numbers, but use your reasonable thinking to estimate how many pre-IPO shares you need to have to be comfortable with your dividends. Also, don't forget about another important thing. in parallel, there will be capitalization of the technology itself happening. And remember from the declaration of dividends that the GTI company will eventually launch its IPO in the foreseeable future. But for that to happen, the GTI company will have to be restructured. It's not going to launch its IPO as an offshore company. It will be restructured. And in parallel to that, we will be calling our pre-IPO shares, as proper securities. And then you will decide yourself whether you want to sell those securities or not. But once you decide to sell it, the price will be completely different from your purchase price. So let's go back to 2014. An investor who purchased 1 million pre-IPO shares for $1,000, and if we're talking about 10 million in 2025 as revenues from of the company, then it will already compensate part of the money spent on purchasing those pre-IPO shares. In other words, the early investors will already get some of their money back. I'm talking about passive investors, because active investors already received some of that money back by working in the affiliate program and earning commission for their work. The money they invested into the technology has been already returned thanks to their active work. One of the investors wrote that it's the opportunity for self-realization. Because indeed, in our business, in crowd investing, this is your opportunity for self-realization, because you can achieve that by building your crowd investing business using multi-level program. And that's what we're going to have on Micron Global. And we're at the exact period when the platform is about to be launched. We've come to the market with a product that we can actually be proud of and not to be shy of. We are offering an opportunity to people that people didn't have in this century, or a handful of such investment opportunities in the last century. So we will be coming to people with an investment proposal that can be sold easily and at a very good price. So those are the key points. Now let's try and recap everything. We have a viable technology that is in demand from potential customers. Customers have already started paying money for it, for the services provided by the company that we co-own. I'm talking about engineering services, design services, which generates profits for 2025, the income part. Now, the owner of the technology, Dr. Unitsky, already has a commercial project up and running, Unilight, which will also generate income. And Unitsky declared that for a certain period of time, it may be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, he being the main investor and the main beneficiary from the capitalization of his technology, will get the biggest profits, of course. And he is ready to share those profits with other investors. And he has the right to do that, legal, moral right, which will allow to generate a bigger profit amount or achieve the desired financial indicators. Moreover, the US Hub project is getting ready to be launched. And when the US project will place orders for the design works from the UST company, it's also profits for us, you see? And it gives us the right to expect profits to be generated to the company to achieve the desired financial performance indicators by 2025. Whether it's going to be 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, it's still money that we can expect to share in. And it's profitable for all investors, so that using the current profitable discounts, they can increase their investment portfolio. And for new investors, people around you, your friends, your coworkers, show those benefits to those people. Tell them that you won't have to wait 10 years like I did. You'll just have to wait 1 or 2 years tops after you purchase a decent package. Then in 2026, 2027, 2028, your returns will be increasing, because we can make a reasonable projection of how the technology is going to develop. Of course, there are risks out there. Let me emphasize it again. There are geopolitical risks. I mentioned the situation between India and Pakistan in the last 2 days. Nobody knows how it's going to end. God forbid a conflict breaks out, and then of course the company might lose a number of projects and customers there. But I hope and pray that it will not escalate, that it will all end with mutual exchange of threats, and that's it. I don't want anything to happen there, and don't want hundreds of thousands or millions of people suffer the way it is happening in my country right now and overall in the territory of Eastern Europe. I hope it's not going to happen. So everything I'm saying right now is quite realistical plans that I can derive from what I see right now. And again, this is my personal opinion as an investor into the string transportation technology. I'm just gathering facts, putting them together, analyze them, and share the analysis results with you. And you might derive the same conclusions. To some of you, it might seem not realistic. Of course, you are entitled to your own opinion. You can make your own estimations, your own predictions. You may be pessimistic, optimistic about it. It's up to you. But let's be, first of all, objective about it, because I'm always trying to be objective. So all of what you said was quite an objective estimation. Then I summarized it and made also my conclusions. And now based on all of what has been said, it is high time to maximize this opportunity. Now we have a possibility to get a very high discount, like 75. And if you pay it in one go, even 85, 76, that goes to 86 discount. It's the opportunity to increase your investment portfolio. And the more pre-IPO shares you're going to have, the bigger the returns will be. And again, newcomers will get a lower discount, but they won't have to wait the time that we waited. The payback period will be way shorter than in our case. So again, it is high time right now to invest, to increase, to expand your portfolio. So please give me some feedback on the second part of our meeting. Tell me if all the benefits that you gave, that I gave, and the explanation that I gave, whether it is a good pro or argument that that convinces you that we should continue doing it, continue promoting the technology. Someone is asking on what platform you are advising to buy the package in order to have a very good purchase discount. Of course, on our platform. To get a 76 discount. You want me to refer you to SWC platform? Of course I won't do it. Why would I do it? 85 discount with 10 extra is very good. Elena says, are we going to receive returns every year or only in 2026? It will depend, Elena, on the financial performance indicators achieved by the company. And hopefully the company will achieve those indicators in 2025. And hopefully the income will be growing, which will proportionally affect our returns, our remuneration. And we can affect that process by engaging in crowd investing. While the company will be doing their commercial part, we will be doing our contribution. And it will allow us in 2026, in 2027, in 2039, receive more and more returns and dividends. And also, eventually, we will be able to sell our shares once the company launches its IPO. So, Elena, in reply to your question, it's not only about 2026, but all the years after. Friends, I will be waiting for your feedback in the chat. Henrik said, sir, good. Okay. Suraj wrote, yes. Elena, I answered your question. Sehr gut, not so good. Yeah, very good means. Then we have a comment in English. I will have it translated. Elena says, perfect. Maya says, I have enough pros and arguments. I made a decision to help Unitsky implement back in 2014, even before the first results were achieved. So Maya has been satisfied with the arguments long before, because it is in 2014 that he decided to help Unitsky. Tatiana said, thank you very much for your competent information. Let's move forward. Gregory said, so let's drink so that our wishes would also always match our possibilities. Ilya said, I would like to have some guidelines how to present the technology to new potential investors. Ilya, I'm going to have special training that will train good sellers. And believe me, we're going to be the best salespeople for this technology in the market. Even though other platforms might have been developing for more years at a bigger scale, but I want us to be qualified salespeople and not just snake oil sellers, you know, and other like spiritual unrelated stuff. What we're doing here is we are helping create an innovative sector-forming technology. We are selling potentially expensive product. We are offering very expensive investment opportunities, meaning profitable, sorry. So the trading that we're going to have on our Micron Global platform might have 100, 200, 300 people, but those people will be top-notch professionals. They're going to achieve better results. Eventually, we will have 30,000 people, 300,000 people. But even if it's not, the handful of people that we're going to have, they will be, again, top-notch salespeople, professional, that will help us then fund targeted commercial projects, help us fund other Unitsky's projects. And we're not going to turn off that path. I told you on numerous occasions that the string transportation technology and Unitsky's technology, we can help it get implemented our entire lives and then pass on that business to our children, because the scale, the sheer scale of Dr. Unitsky's inventions and the portfolio of his inventions is huge. He's a once-in-a-century genius, and it's very fortunate for all of us that we come across such a person. And it is we're very fortunate to have come across this investment opportunity. We need to maximize it, to become professionals in the area. And then this process will allow us to make good money from it. Take advantage of it, dear colleagues, dear investors. Everything in our hands. And it will affect our future financial stability and also the stability of the planet Earth. Because what Dr. Unitsky is doing aims at creation and improvement. So, friends, I would like to thank you all for your feedback. Valentina wrote, yes, Dr. Unitsky is a genius who loves Earth and all of us. Grigory says, thank you. Suraj says, thanks. Olga wrote, I feel protected and happy. Well, I would like to end my meeting today. It's been more than 2 hours already by splitting the meeting into parts. I would like to join Valentina's words that Unitsky is a genius who loves Earth and all of us. And the fact that Dr. Unitsky on the 16th of April declared his readiness to share his part of the profits with us, the profits that he's going to receive as the biggest investor and beneficiary of this train transportation technology. This, yet again, emphasizes that he loves not only Earth, but all of us, and that he is a thankful person, and he is true to his word. So friends, dear friends, I would like to end my speech with the following words. Maximize the opportunities you have right now for your own benefit, for the benefit of your families, and for your future generations. See you at our next meeting that we're going to have next week. For now, the date is open, but we will learn the date in the next couple of days. In the news, we'll publish it, the topic and the date of the meeting. Thank you very much for your time. I would like to wish you a good weekend. We still have 5 days until the end of the year. The discounts are on fire. The opportunities are on fire. So the opportunities that will bring us joy and happiness. Thank you very much for your attention. To every one of you, I would like to send you my regards and thank you for your time. See you later. Bye-bye.